Welcome to the Fringe Show. I'm your host, Tatiana Zalan, and I go live every Friday at 2 p.m. Dubai time. The Fringe helps you to navigate the rapidly changing world and increase the odds of your success. Here we discuss technology, startups, entrepreneurs, and mental models of successful people so that you too can take advantage of the opportunities in the new digital world. Today, we're going to talk about NFTs. It's a very hot topic, what's hot in the NFT areas, and it's episode number 38. And we are having really an informal chat with Richard Zalan, who is the CEO of Vernissage, which is a digital art gallery for emerging artists powered by Unique Network. Richard has just recently come back from Lisbon, from a specific conference on NFTs, which was called Nonfungible Conference, NFC.
NFC, actually,
NFC, funny name, yes. But really serious things, serious projects were displayed there, were showed there. And we're just trying to pick up his brains and a couple of trends that are happening in this area. Before we go any further, I just want to say my usual disclaimer. It's not any sort of financial or investment advice. There's a lot of hype around NFTs, but I'm not suggesting you should be investing in them, collecting them, or maybe even creating them. So it's not financial advice, not investment advice. Everything that I'm doing here on the Fringe Show is for informational and educational purposes only. But before we get to Richard, let me overview the market, the NFT market in 2021. And this is coming from a very well-known research company, Nonfungible.com. And that research company was also represented at this NFC conference that Richard attended. They issue very high-quality reports every quarter, but also every year. And if you are, say, a collector or an investor in NFTs and you have a substantial portfolio, they're probably one of the best people to judge the value of your portfolio. So they provide research and consultancy services, really. And here are some of the key points from their report from 2021, which I personally found very interesting, but also somewhat counterintuitive. There's no doubt that in 2021 was a record year for NFTs. And according to their estimates here, the sales or the volume of dollars traded increased by 21,350%. That's relative to the previous year. So it's significant growth. But what they're saying that this growth was somewhat unbalanced. And it's quite interesting what they're saying. Trading volume, average price, and market size increased dramatically, but growth in active smart contracts increased more modestly. And smart contracts is a very good indicator, which provides an overview of the number of active projects during the year. So unbalanced growth, what does it mean? How do we interpret these findings? As demand increased, it would seem supply struggled to keep pace. And that leads to two notable consequences. First, a sharp rise in prices, and this is what we really saw for many famous NFT projects. The prices rose dramatically. And secondly, proliferation of new quick win projects with low added value. So there are 2 million people, 2 million active wallets right now, and they're all waiting for high quality projects to come up in 2022. So greater added value so that we can live up to the promise of the NFT technology. They also quite good at outlining some of the major challenges, and one of these challenges in particular have something to do with what we will be talking a little bit later in the show. It's one of the trends that was picked up during NFC, the conference. So the first challenge, they say it's really user experience. It's very hard to buy an NFT in decentralized way. You have to download a wallet, save your private code, fill it with cryptocurrency, and finally make the purchase after several portfolio and blockchain confirmations. Now, this is a little bit easier on centralized exchanges like crypto.com or Finance NFT, but then who is the owner of your NFT? That remains a question. And by the way, in 2021, they're saying NFTs was classified as the most often used word in the year by the Collins Dictionary. And does this mean actually that there is a proof of global and total adoption? According to them, no, that this doesn't mean it at all. There are all these challenges that they are outlining. The second challenge after user experience is legal framework and taxation. The legislative framework for NFTs now is not particularly clear, and I even have a couple of shows that talks about who owns your digital assets. This is not very clear. The only thing in common for a lot of countries that we see is the separation of legislation of cryptocurrencies and legislation on NFTs. That's really all. Generally speaking, NFTs lack appropriate legislation, and it becomes very, very difficult for individuals, for private collectors, for example, to declare their income from the sale of NFTs if they want to, and for companies it is even more difficult. Market regulation is not there yet. We don't have effective and efficient procedures for KYC and ALM methods. So and that's probably, according to this report, regulation of NFTs will be one of the most difficult and greatest challenges in years to come. Another one is ecology, and what do they mean by that? Well, everything that emits CO2 must reduce the emissions. Proof of work blockchains in particular and centralized servers are equally culpable of doing that. Now we'll talk about ecology a little bit further on. Speculation and inflation, there is a lot of that going on, particularly in the collectibles segment. And finally, education and acceptance. The cryptocurrency universe takes a lot of time to understand, and NFTs only represent one of the many ways in it or into it. And in the view of this influx of newcomers, the NFT community, they claim, must continue to provide objective information on practices for reducing various risks. So one of the things that I'm doing on the show is trying to demystify everything about NFTs, and that's a major challenge, and that needs to be overcome. And one of the key points here, and key points for me, and in particular in their report, was that the metaverse and metaverse worlds will be a predictable catalyst for uniting everything around NFTs. So this is what they're saying, that the metaverse is by definition the central space that connects all segments and all NFT activities, be it art, be it collectibles, be it some utility, NFT tokens, and so on and so forth. Yeah, properties, yes, all of that. That's the metaverse is the space, the meeting place, if you will. So what better place than a decentralized virtual universe with almost unlimited possibility to roll out the full potential of this new asset class and explore interoperability at the same time. So it is considered to be the catalyst for the entire NFT industry and the best space for expression. I want just to make this point clear, they're not talking about centralized metaverses like the one that's being developed now by Meta. They're really paying attention to everything that's decentralized, like Sandbox, like Decentraland, for example. Yeah. Okay, and now we're on to you after this short introduction into what we've seen in 2021, and by all definition, and from what we see happening, 2022 is going to be equally as crazy as far as the NFT space is concerned. Yeah, so what were some of the highlights for you during this conference? Maybe in terms of trends or some interesting projects that you've seen or haven't seen.
We usually were attending conferences here in Dubai, and I probably try to refrain myself from saying the different crowd. It's not what I meant, but in Lisbon, there were mainly European, some from US projects, and I did not see any Russian projects. Probably because maybe this current conflict that prevented from it. Where in Dubai we see many Russian projects.
Many Russian and Ukrainian projects.
Many, yes.
And teams
so
that are
was,
as
as
well.
far as population, let's call it, that was a big difference. As conference as such was not really massive. It was about 1,500 people altogether.
But still a decent size.
It's still decent size, and it was for 2 days. It was a 2 days conference in beautiful city of Lisbon. It was my first time in Lisbon, so I really enjoyed that. There were, as I mentioned, European, mainly from France. There were some US or Canadians. I could not gauge the difference in accents when I met people, and definitely many projects from Portugal, their own projects. So that would be the only difference between Dubai and the European conference. What were they focusing on? The main focus of many of projects there was, it seems to me, esports, gaming, and as you mentioned, Metaverse. And now Metaverse is everywhere. Everyone talks about Metaverse, but probably because there's a big community of gaming in Europe, from France, from Finland. I guess probably that must have been the reason why there was so much focus on gaming itself. And of course, combined with NFT itself, because the whole conference was about NFTs. So anything to do with these groups of interest, as e-sport, was all about NFT and how they apply to this particular discipline, let's call it. There were a couple of interesting projects that caught my attention personally. One was Portuguese, from Portugal, native Portuguese project. I have a name here. Let me read that. It's under Santa Casa. Santa Casa, it's a church organization that has under its umbrella many charities. There are fully properly vetted charities, and they deal with them for years. And within this Santa Casa organization, they created their own organization called, I need to remember, Artentic, like art authentic, probably. Artentic. What they do, they actually sell NFTs of physical art, and all the revenues go to these charities. And you might probably wonder what kind of charities we're talking about. It could be charity for children in hospital, charity for lonely people, elderly people at home that need care. So since vernissage is about better cause, social issues, I was very keen to have a conversation with people and perhaps maybe some collaboration in the future. Unfortunately, they operate only in Portugal. So anything, unless we have artists from Portugal, that would be probably, that might be the so that was one of the kind of interesting project. Another one, a very interesting approach to combine physical objects, literally, not art, but objects you can hold in your hands, with NFT. There's a company that is an acronym, is new NGHW, New Generation Headwear. Sounds very long, but what they do, they manufacturing caps, like a baseball cap, that in very front has hidden magnets, and they are also manufacturing individual badges that go directly onto those magnets and stick to it with the magnets there, of course. They have patented this whole idea, so they own the patent for that. These badges are very well made. There are other plastic or other metal or all kinds of variety, and very artistic, very well designed and very well manufactured. And you can buy these caps and magnets and wear it. However, where is the NFT here? You probably wonder.
Yes, I was wondering.
Yeah. Well, the company released 20 NFTs that had equivalent in those badges, representation of these NFTs, only 20. And if you buy like a kit set, like the entry set, where there's a cap, a few different badges, and some, I think there was a t-shirt, I can't remember. Basically all about this headwear. You buy it, you are entitled to win one of these NFT. So you might be the lucky one out of all these buyers, be one of the 20 people who own this one particular NFT. But what's so special about it? If you win this NFT, you always get 1% of the revenue of the company. And I think this is unbelievably amazing as a concept.
Yes.
That normal person can actually own some revenue of the big company. And they already have in plans another series of these NFTs. So probably there's going to be a new campaign of purchasing this to, gear to win it. And I found it very interesting. I didn't grasp the concept at the very beginning. I didn't see, why would I want to buy this NFT? I talked to them very first day. I came back next day and said, come on, please tell me again.
Yes.
I need to, because it's very unusual.
Yes, it's indeed very unusual, because I haven't heard about any other company whose business model would be structured around revenues, a percentage of revenues. Yes, secondary sales are very common, but this is something entirely new. At least to me.
I think it was very interesting, and they were from France, actually, French company. Another interesting.
Maybe before we go any further, perhaps this could be a very good idea for corporate gear. Yeah, if your company is trying.
It could be, a corporate gear. Yes,
could be T-shirts. Headgear,
anything,
excellent, anything,
and that would attract people to buy your gear and give something back to them.
Excellent.
Another interesting project was inspired by current conflict in Ukraine. There's a lot of information about Ukraine, but what was so special about it is. They selected a bunch of digital artists, to create particular NFTs or art pieces, and they were worked independently. They were given a certain kind of guidelines, what they're looking for, and the final product of this was, I think, 10 or 12 individual pieces of art. Displays that was displayed on the wall, so there were digital displays. Like a collage, but placed strategically in a way. So when you first look at that, you immediately feel this style. You see something familiar to you. There was actually equivalent of Guernica by Picasso. So it's all about suffering, blood, killed people, murders, and all that. So you can see on this collage. So that was very interesting. Perhaps you might on your channel maybe show this picture. Do you have this option to upload the picture?
Not right now. Maybe I don't have it.
Anyway, it's very interesting. So that was when you look at it, so I know this motif. And then you start reading, what it is.
And the proceeds will go to the...
I believe the proceeds will go to help people who suffer, civilians, I would say, definitely, yes. Or families, I didn't look really deeply how this actually chain goes to offer the help, this particular help. But it was main reason for that.
Yeah, so that's another interesting concept that maybe if you're a startup founder, you can pick up this idea.
Yeah.
And another kind of talking point that we really wanted to raise is around the ecology issue of NFTs, right? There was an interesting presentation by the CTO of the Unique Network.
And I need to just mention, you mentioned that earlier, but I need to emphasize again, we are very happy to actually, we partnered with, the Vernissage has partnered with Unique Network, and there was a presentation by CTO, who is also a co-founder of Unique Network, and presentation about how NFTs, what kind of CO2 footprint leave when you mint an NFT. I think you have a slide.
Yes,
here,
I do have. I don't
very interesting slide.
To share a couple of slides with you, just literally very quickly.
Do you know how to share it?
Yes, I do. That's probably a very, very telling slide, very telling statistic here. I know, let me just kind of jump in. I know it's very popular to mint badges for all sorts of conferences these days. It seems to be the trend. While you're doing this, please pay attention to how much it costs to mint one NFT ticket. To this event, it's referring obviously to the conference. I would gather it's nothing different from any other conference that's taking place in the crypto space. So 95 kilos of CO2 just to mint one NFT ticket. And there is another statistic here. One NFT transfer on Ethereum produces about 48 kgs of CO2. And that's as if you're riding a car for almost 200 kilometers, right?
Yeah, it's... Actually, people don't pay attention to that, but it's very...
And it's not that the community, the NFT community is not aware of that. Of course they are, and they're looking for other means of doing away with all these costs. And maybe that's another slide
that's a very interesting slide that indicates on Ethereum blockchain. First one on the left, it shows how much emission is basically produced. And as we go to the next one is Tezos blockchain. Then we follow Polkadot and Unique to compare to the Ethereum blockchain. You can see how very little actually it costs. And it's actually very, very cheap to mint any NFT on Unique Network. Unique Network is part of Polkadot system. We need to indicate it.
Of the ecosystem.
Of the ecosystem, yes. However, all securities and all smart contracts are happening on Polkadot. So therefore, Unique being only a parachain on Polkadot has this actually ability to be very, very economical. Yeah, that's what I want to say.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Anything else do you want to add as far as ecology goes?
No. That was basically what I want to say, and we're very happy to actually to be part of Unique Network. Yes, I mean partner with them. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think this is probably it for today, for today's show. I hope you get something out of it, some interesting maybe insights to see what the founders are concerned with, what are the trends. Well, clearly Metaverse, gaming, esports. And please pay attention to be careful about the environment and think about the environment every time you try to mint an NFT. Of course, the situation will change with the move of Ethereum to proof of stake. Currently, the Ethereum blockchain is by far the most dominant. According to the statistics, almost 75% is of all NFTs are minted on Ethereum.
Can I add something?
Of course.
You were saying earlier about usability of NFTs and
User experience, yes.
User experience, how easy it is to use.
Which is not.
And I can give you an example on that particular conference. There was not food provided during the day, only little snacks. People get hungry for lunch. So there were trucks outside, trucks with food, with beer or with drinks and so. And people were queuing. So I was queuing there as well until I realized when I get closer to the window that in order to buy, I have to scan certain QR code on my phone that allows me to top up the wallet with my money. That has to be on my phone as well. And then I can use that back at this truck to actually pay for it. Mm-hmm. Is it user-friendly?
No, even Web 2.0 is very user-unfriendly, and Web 3.0 definitely not. So that's one of the major challenges that needs to be overcome if we want to have a wider adoption of NFTs, new business models, new technologies generally.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Richard,
for
coming.
Inviting me.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing these insights. And now it's time for some music. I'll be back with you at 2 p.m. Dubai time next Friday.